Listen to that cook. Just listen to that cook like Matt. It's What Chaos, DJ Bean, Pete Blackburn, second episode. And Pete, since we last spoke, the Senators lost a first-round pick and their general manager, Nicklas Backstrom, stepping away from hockey due to injury. Flames are kind of on blow-up watch. Carter Hart hurt versus the Sabres, but we need to begin with the Penguins being so bad that a team beat them and still fired their general manager. The shit has hit the fan in Ottawa.
It's a mess, man. The Senators, if you're a Senators fan right now, I apologize. It's got to be a horrible, excruciating existence for that team.
They had the Hamburglar. They get to that. Those vibes last for like 20 years when you have the Hamburglar.
I don't know. I mean, like, that team has undergone so many changes, so many scandals, so many, like, just little annoyances. And this was supposed to be their year where it's like, all right, we're going to be good. Things are going to start taking shape. And we hit November 1st, and literally everything is just hitting the wall.
Well, I mean, one of the consistent-ish things was Pierre Dorion, and he's gone now. We should give a rundown of everything that happened. So, as I said, the Senators are going to lose their first-round pick in one of the upcoming drafts, and it stems over the next 3 years.
Yeah, and they get to pick. So, like 24 hours before the NHL draft lottery, they have to announce their intentions to give up that year's pick or keep it.
It's the only pick they get to make that year, which is them picking which year they lose. They're going to be picking high in the second round, though.
A cool option would be like, hey, you either give us your first round pick or you give us the next 6. Make them think about it.
Yeah, kick it down the road. It all stems, the loss of the first round pick stems from their involvement in a failed trade.
You could say lack of involvement too.
No, like I'll say like it's their involvement in the Vegas Golden Knights trade of Evgeny Dadonov to the Ducks.
Yeah, but I'm like making a joke about the fact that they like weren't involved in giving the list, and so
their lack of involvement in their own trade that then made them extremely involved in another team's trade. Give a quick rundown for people who don't know.
The Senators signed Evgeny Dadonov Dadonov. Nobody's
the last couple of days. The pronunciation, I always knew it to be Dadonov, and people called it Dad for
Dadonov,
short.
Yeah,
both are on the table. Although in this podcast, you will find we care heavily about getting people's names right and pronouncing them correctly.
Oh, so our curtains just fell down. Dadonov was signed by the Senators. The Senators later traded him to the Golden Knights, but failed to inform the Golden Knights that he had a 10-team no-trade clause. Mm-hmm. In which the Anaheim Ducks were on that 10-team no-trade clause. But since the Golden Knights didn't know that, they tried to trade him to the Anaheim Ducks about a year later. Mm-hmm. And then Dadonov was like, yo, you can't trade me to the Ducks because I have a no-trade clause, and they're on it. And so that trade had to be nullified, and it was just like a huge debacle. We didn't even know that the Senators were involved in that trade falling apart until like fairly recently. This whole thing was kind of dead in the water for about a year
and a half.
Yeah. And nobody was thinking about it. And then recently it came out that the NHL was investigating and found that the Senators, and specifically, I guess, Pierre Dorion were at fault, like negligence for not informing them of that no trade clause.
So the whole thing is a mess to me, even beyond the Senators. I'm confused, and obviously on Dorion's part, like that, I've never heard of that. I've never heard of a team trading a guy and not giving all the information they can. And typically in other sports, when stuff comes up like that, it usually comes out right after, and then the teams are allowed to undo the trade and work from there. This didn't hit the fan until like a year later when they tried to make another trade. But I'm confused by Vegas in all of this, because my understanding, every year at the draft, I'd ask like GMs, like, have you gotten your lists? And you get your lists from the players. Even if you're not going to trade them, you want to know what that player's list is. And if you're going to talk about them and come up in trades, know who you can talk with, know with whom you'd be wasting your time. So I'm confused by Vegas that they never like looked into what their contract is. This stuff is all public record.
I was going to say, like, did he just like not check Cap Friendly? Because you can just go to capfriendly.com and find out if somebody has a modified no trade clause, a 10-team no trade clause, and they have like all those details there. I went and I looked at Dadonov's page. It said that he had a modified no trade clause with 10 teams. So
were the Ducks on? Who is on it?
But I mean, like, I guess the league had an investigation and looked into it, and they found negligence. So I don't know what. I'd be interested to find out like what sort of negligence prevented the Golden Knights from accessing that information.
I will say that there's also been things with like GMs and teams where little things will happen, and I don't want to use specific examples because I don't want to embarrass anybody, where you're like, but you knew this rule, right? Or like, but you knew that thing, and you just don't know if it's an oversight or pure stupidity on their part. I always understood Pierre Dorion to be a pretty competent executive. Like, this is out of the ordinary, although it's not out of the ordinary for the Senators, which we'll talk about in a little bit, just because they've been going through all sorts of shit, really post-Hamburglar.
Yeah. I love that that's like your dividing line of when things
like
went
when
wrong.
things were good and when things were bad. And I can't even remember. Did the Hamburglar team make the playoffs? I think they didn't.
I think they pushed and then they missed it.
They had an awesome miracle run.
I just remember Curtis Lazar eating a hamburger off the ice.
Yes, people
disgusting.
were throwing hamburgers on the ice. Now, for people who don't know, tell the hamburgers. I'm just kidding.
No.
Yesterday, once that came down, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, while I agree with you that there's something to be said about Vegas being so in the dark here in this situation, I also understand them being super pissed off because it happened at the time. Like, again, we're a couple of years removed from this being, or a year and a half removed from this being kind of when it happened and when it was relevant. It's easy to forget because Vegas is the reigning Stanley Cup champion right now. But it's easy to forget, like, at that time, everybody hated Vegas. Everybody was very critical of Vegas in the way that they handled their players, the way that they handled transactions. Like, this was post Marc-Andre Fleury getting traded for nothing after winning the Vezina. It was like, this team is super cutthroat and they don't really care about their players. They're operating like maniacs and they're not like abiding by league rules. So when the trade was nullified, they caught the brunt of like, what the fuck are these guys doing? And if like it truly wasn't their fault, they definitely have a right to be pissed knowing how it reflected on them. And like, yeah, right now we can look back and be like, okay, they won the Stanley Cup. Everything worked out for them. You know, Dadonov's not even like he's on a different team, completely not involved in this thing. He
scored last night for the Stars.
He did, yeah. But like, what if like other players see that and they're like, I don't want to sign with that team in free agency. They don't fucking know what they're doing with any of their players, and they're not looking at no trade clauses and shit like that. I could understand how that would reflect extremely poorly on the Vegas Golden Knights and why they would want to rectify that.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously they ended up figuring it out and they ended up trading him to the Canadiens eventually. But like, when teams, like a general manager in an organization's worst fear is making a trade that doesn't go through but does become publicized, because then it's just known, okay, like, we didn't want you. This happens in the NBA, I feel like, more than it does in other leagues, but you'll be like, you tried trading that dude, he knows that, and now that's your problem.
It's one thing if like a guy fails his physical, or it's like, we tried, that's kind of out of our hands. If the trade falls through because like you didn't do your due diligence as a general manager, we generally like to trust general managers that they know what they're doing, even if like we criticize their decisions sometimes. But like the operations standpoint, you like to think that your general manager knows what he's fucking doing and knows how to go through the proper steps.
Well, this was a very good introduction, or second introduction, reintroduction, whatever you want, for Senators owner Michael Andlauer, because he ends up relieving, kind of actually parting ways with. That was what it ended up being.
It was a mutual parting of ways,
they
which
decided, both of them, that Pierre Dorion was. I'm not even going to get on the phrasing of the parting ways thing, because like if everyone's mad at you and like you fucked up and you're not going to be able to go back to work the next day, as long as there's severance involved, I'd be like, yeah, sure, let's call it a parting of the ways, because I don't want to be back here.
Yeah, but I mean, like, let's be honest here. Pierre Dorion was extremely fired. It was not a mutual parting of ways.
Yeah, it was
from what I read, Andlauer sat down with Dorion and was like, the punishment for your negligence here is no less than you being fired.
Yeah.
Or like no less than you losing your job. And in that case, like what's more than that? What's the step above that? Is he going to like publicly smear him?
Yeah, I was going to say, like,
is he going to kill
violence?
him?
Yeah. So Andlauer held a press conference in which he was pretty upset that he and the remaining Senators organization has lost a first-round pick over something for which he was not present. This didn't happen under his watch, so Andlauer put that out there in a press conference. Take a look.
I didn't do fucking shit. I didn't rig shit. I didn't fucking do this. I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about any of this. This world's fucking so fucked up. I'm done. Do what you want. Pull the plug. I'll kill you.
Seems pretty pissed.
Took like an hour and a half to do that. Totally worth it.
It was definitely worth it.
I had to Photoshop Andlauer out of his press conference, then Photoshop the front of the podium out, put Tim Robinson in, and then put the front of the podium back over.
The best part of it is that you hit us with a, wait, check this out. And then there was like an hour and a half gap between sending that text and then sending the video.
Buddy, you should know me well enough. Like every second in that hour and a half, I was cooking.
Yeah,
I
know
didn't
that.
I didn't forget to do it or whatever. I just like locked in.
Me and Sean weren't like spamming you with like, where is it text.
Yeah.
That was literally the last text that was sent.
Like,
But I love, like, if you can get away with it, I love that being like the creative clock where like that to me, like I said, check this out. And then I sent you guys the thing, whatever happened in between and however much time passed in the real world, whatever. Here is Michael Andlauer's actual press conference.
And my follow-up question to that would be, you just kind of mentioned how you never anticipated this, you sort of inherited this situation. I think a lot of fans are wondering why this organization have to pay for something that happened 18 months ago, not even on your watch. What would you say to that?
I totally agree with you. That's a question you have to ask the NHL, why it took a whole year since the hearing. Granted, it was a 2-day hearing, 73-page reports. It's not something that's just a slam dunk. And the commissioner had a lot of time to deliberate on it and think about it. But why I inherited this is beyond me. There's no reason for it to last that long. I knew about it through the due diligence process, and it was basically, from the seller's perspective, it was really a non-issue. So, I don't know if first round is a non-issue to you guys, but it is to me.
I didn't do fucking shit. I didn't rig shit. I didn't fucking do this. I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about any of this. This world's fucking so fucked up. I'm done. Do what you want. Pull the plug. I'll kill you.
Okay. So I kind of get why he's like, look, I bought this team in between this shit going down and us getting punished for it. I think saying like, so we shouldn't get punished doesn't really make sense. And saying we should have just been punished earlier, you still would have like really been hurt by that.
Yeah, no, I mean, like if they took the pick away 12 months ago or whatever,
you're more
like
immediately fucked, honestly.
Yeah,
because your current crop is worse.
But like it does affect the valuation of the team, and I think that from like a businessman perspective, that's why he's pissed, because that could have saved him some money had it been processed before this. So like, I love this guy. I love his energy. Yes. I love how pissy he is. He has every right to be pissy, especially like if they played down like the punishment, if they didn't inform him of the Pinto investigation.
Right, we haven't even brought up the Pinto
like
thing.
2 investigations ongoing with like the Senators and wrapped up in, like within the past week, and he didn't know about either of them when he bought the team. Like that's crazy. Like I said, he could have saved a bunch of money, and it just like it reflects really poorly. But I love how honest and blunt he is in the press conference. I don't know how long that lasts. I think that might be a product of him being new to the league, and not like. I mean, I'm almost positive that Gary Bettman was on the phone shortly after that press conference, being like, "Brother, chill out."
Oh yeah, and people thought that he was going to get fined. He's not getting. There ended up being no fine levied against him. I so agree with you though that like the winners and losers of all this. Losers, Senators, Pierre Dorion, Senators fans, Senators. Winners, Michael Andlauer. That guy is cool as shit. He's got some Mike McDaniel vibes if you're a football fan, where he just kind of comes out there and he's like, hey, gang, what's up with all this shit, right? Like, they took a pick away from me.
I can't help but I agree with you, but I can't help but think how we were robbed. Like, we could have had Ryan Reynolds up at the press conference.
Sean, hit it, baby. I asked ChatGPT what that would look like. That's perfect.
That is awesome.
I told you I was sitting on a bit.
Yeah.
And this happens a lot between Pete and I anyway.
Just shared brain.
Yeah. I asked ChatGPT, what would this have looked like if Ryan Reynolds were the owner?
Is that ChatGPT or is it like the Bing search engine?
It's shout out Kevin O'Connor. He held my hand through this because he's a big AI guy.
Okay.
After doing this, by the way, I told Sean, I got an email from American Express that said, we found your information on the dark web. So
immediately.
It may have, I'm not blaming ChatGPT. It could have come from something else. But I paid money to join this service so they could render these images for us. So if we ever have these hypotheticals, we could do it. I put in there, I said, what would it look like if Ryan Reynolds fired the Ottawa Senators general manager? And I don't know AI
the
stuff.
Picture with the gun.
But
it's hilarious.
Yes. It came back and it was like,
I'll kill you.
It was like, we can't just render things of like Ottawa Senators people and Ryan Reynolds. So KOC was like, you got to use the term doppelganger. Like, what if a doppelganger of Ryan Reynolds? And it kept pushing shit back at me. And then eventually I was like, what if Free Guy fired the Ottawa Senators GM? And it was like, that's a movie. We can't do stuff from the movie. We can make you some superheroes, though. Okay. So I was like, cool. And it gave me these. I mean, the one on all the way on the left, hopefully people are watching this on YouTube.
Absolutely.
That's Hank
ripped.
Lundqvist.
I don't know if Lundqvist got a body like that. That's
why? Because he's eating those cheeseburgers?
No, I just think
TNT razzes him for his diet.
I mean, who cares about his diet? Look at the finished result.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. No, I just think I'm locked into the picture of the superhero with the gun, and now I'm just thinking about like the punishment for this crime is no less than being fired. As he stands there with an automatic weapon.
The funniest part about that particular one to me is they're like, we can't use Senator stuff, but here's a guy that is clearly in a Pittsburgh Penguins jersey.
Yes, is orange?
Yeah, it's orange.
It's like it's like a Frankenstein
logo.
Flyers Penguins
it's like
jersey.
A reverse. This looks like what they would do for a reverse retro Sharks jersey.
It looks like one of those things that is like, like those internet things. It's like, what if we color swapped these rivals jerseys?
Yes. Take a look, though, at the one that Sean and I were really caught up in, the last one, all the way to the right, because do any of those people look like other people to you?
That looks like Tom Brady.
Oh, you go Brady? Right. Okay.
And then it looks like my eyesight's pretty bad, but the one above the Tom Brady looking ass dude looks like, from my vantage point, looks like Henry Cavill.
Okay, so the guy third in is for sure Henry Cavill.
Okay.
The guy all the way to the right, though. So the last one, Sean said, "Why is Rudy Giuliani there?" And I said, "Why is Jamie Dornan there?" Like, look at that. That is politician Rudy Giuliani and actor Jamie Dornan.
You can see Tom Brady though, right? Like we always talk about Tom Brady is like politician hot. Yeah.
To those who don't speak the language, politician hot means if you put on a suit and are clean shaven, you'll look hot.
Yeah.
But a lot of people would look hot when they're like right now, Pete's just doing sweats and I think he looks fantastic.
Thanks, buddy.
I, at my age and with how I've maybe treated myself at points, need to make sure I'm checking certain boxes in order to look my best. So I fall more into like the closer to the like politician hot thing where it's like you need to cultivate a certain look to look good.
You got that mid body?
I
Carter Hart?
got mid body Carter Hart.
Yeah.
You want to transition to that, or do you want to?
No, I was just making a joke, like mid body injury for Carter Hart last night. And just like mid body is
we're going to get on that in a second. You posed a question about the Senators, though.
Yeah, no, like my question about the Senators is where do they rank in the worst run organizations in sports? And that's not to say like, you know, there's a difference between the worst run organizations like the Senators and the one I think that maybe only tops them in the NHL is the Arizona Coyotes. Yeah. Sorry to all our PHNX.
Yeah,
sorry, Sean.
I need to publicly get on here on the microphone and say I do not endorse this, or else I will have PHNX people come at me.
Honestly, Sean, I was so taken aback when Pete fixed his fingers to type that to us. I thought it was
fuck off.
Like, really not
cool. My criticism of the Arizona Coyotes is not a reflection of they have no fans, blah, blah, blah.
But then you texted that when we said, why are you putting the Coyotes on? You said they don't have fans, and if they do, you said you don't even like them?
Shut up.
Is the text?
Shut up. I'm not dumping on the Coyotes, but even Coyotes fans have to recognize and be frustrated by how poorly they have been run over the past decade.
I think what we said before we went live is like it's not.
So I said it's like
the kid.
Yeah, it's like having a kid or seeing a kid and seeing their parents being awful to them and being like, yo, you're terrible at parenting and you should not have this child. And then other people being like, why do you hate that kid? I don't. I want to see that kid grow up and be successful. So he needs new parents.
But it's more saying, and
I want to see the Coyotes
good analogy,
thrive
and I think
in
that's
Arizona.
A good one. But you're more driving past the kid's house and saying like, that place must be a disaster.
Yeah, because it is.
And like your kid in the car in this hypothetical is like, but I go to school with that kid. I like him.
Yeah, I'm not.
You're
saying.
Like, well, I just don't fuck with the parents.
I feel like Coyotes fans will, because like I feel like Coyotes fans, their big thing is like people are always like, you play in a college arena, and it's like, cool, bro. Like we get it. We
Mullet
know
rocks. Dude.
Mullet is awesome, and like it's a lot of people who don't understand. But like I think even Coyotes fans would recognize that like ownership at times has made some questionable
Coyotes
decisions.
fans are being put in a terrible position by the way the team is being run. Like they're being made fun of and they have to deal with all the backlash and the shit talk from other fan bases.
All your texts about them.
That's
like,
right. No, but my point is like there's a difference between that and like the Pittsburgh Pirates. The Pittsburgh Pirates are embarrassing and irrelevant, but that's because their ownership doesn't fucking care. Like they're not puking all over themselves. They're just like, we don't want to spend money.
They fall more into
they're not trying.
Yeah, I think that like poverty franchise can mean a lot of different things in today's day and age.
Right.
Like, is it actually a money thing? Is it that they have a ton of turnover? Is it that they keep changing their mind about what their direction wants to be? There's a million things that can make you look at a franchise and say, this is a mess. Who are your other bad franchises, though?
I mean, the worst ones that come to mind for me, number one has to be the Washington Commanders. Just with like all the shit with Dan Snyder and just the disgusting stuff behind the scenes going on there. It's just like they've been a pretty bad team. They're just like a disgrace to the NFL. The whole like the rebranding stuff was a horrible smear on them. Like everything has been terrible with the Washington Commanders.
That there was that place was seemingly like rife with sexual harassment and like doesn't even make the first paragraph of saying this organization is a mess speaks to what a catastrophe that was. And when that story came out a few years ago, everyone was like, brutal, not surprising.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like everything that comes out, all the horrific stuff that comes out about the Commanders, the reaction is always, well, yeah, they're terrible.
The Commanders, or as I like to call them, the commies, are like a head to toe like cultural failure. Like even like
Correct.
What was it, last year or 2 years ago, where the stanchions came down and almost ended Jalen Hurts' career.
Oh right.
Like that's where it's like culturally they're bad. They don't have good players. Like with the Coyotes, for example, you can look at them and be like, well, their GM knows what they're doing. Like Bill Armstrong's good at his job. They have hope. If you're a Commanders fan, it's just like, this is not getting better anytime soon. Every single part of what we do, from our logo to literally the stadium that we play in, is a mess.
And I know that it goes to borrow from Michael Andlauer's brain. I know this goes back to the previous ownership, but like, never forget, the only thing that got the Commanders to change their logo was somebody fucking with their money. That was I think it was FedEx that was like, we're going to pull, and people were like, we're going to stop selling your jerseys. And they were like, okay, we think we're going to change it.
And like the only thing that got Snyder to sell the team was like borderline prison time.
All right. That is, by the way, that's Commanders talk here on What Chaos. There's going to be plenty more of it. Who else?
Commanders, Coyotes, and then like the Senators honestly might be third on that list. I just think about all the shit that has happened with the Senators, and like some of it is not like explicitly on ownership or like the general manager and stuff, but just think about all the nonsense that has gone on with that team in the past decade. You've had like the Uber scandal, Erik Karlsson and Mike Hoffman, that debacle, the team, the 2018 team being disbanded with like fury that we haven't seen since the Florida Marlins after they won the World Series.
Right.
Like Eugene Melnick and like all his nonsense, even like he couldn't go on a yacht vacation without it being a major controversy turning into a lawsuit. Do you know about this? He went on like a super yacht vacation and it turned into a $10 million lawsuit because the captain was a disaster. And it was like violent puking and like rampant like racism and stuff like that on
So it's the 2022 movie Triangle of Sadness?
Pretty close, honestly.
That's what that sounds like.
Yeah. And like they couldn't sell out playoff games. They had to put up tarps in the upper bowl.
Do you remember that?
Like now they're losing first rounders and firing the GM. So like all of this stuff is kind of culminates into being like, this team is either cursed or a joke.
It's a fabric thing. It's
right,
it's woven into the fabric. And you mentioned the
and
Uber
that's why
thing,
I love Andlauer, because he's like, I'm sick of this shit. I'm trying to change this.
I bought
shit.
what?
I didn't
Also,
read
quickly back on the play out the rest of the show, Sean. I want to hear that as many times as possible. On the Andlauer and Ryan Reynolds thing. Do you remember why Ryan Reynolds' group didn't get the Senators?
No.
Bids were due, and their group was like, hey, instead of us submitting our bid, could you give us a window of 30 days to negotiate with you guys? Nobody else can. Mm-hmm. And the Senators were like, no. And they were like, well, we might not buy it then.
Wow.
And they were like, we know you won't then. Somebody else will just buy it.
Okay.
That was my curse. If I'm going to be spending all night doing AI renderings of Ryan Reynolds buying the team, I was like, I should probably read up a little bit on this. And I think that's why that group fell through.
Damn.
Because they they were
What a
like,
stupid reason.
yeah, submit a bid, bro.
Yeah.
If they did submit a bid, subscribe to the YouTube and
That's
comment
right.
on it.
It just bums me out that we're not getting, because the big part of the Reynolds wanting to buy the team was like wanting to do an NHL style welcome to Wrexham. Think about how fucking juicy this would be.
God, it would have been amazing.
Yeah.
I mean,
So it just kind of like bums me out that we're not getting that style. Although, like, I do wonder how much they would even want to put that out. But like, I think at the end of the day, Ryan Reynolds is more about the TV show than like. I think he would put a lot of this on it just because he knows it would get viewers.
or a Ryan
Great
Reynolds
content.
doppelganger, or a Jamie Dornan
That's right.
doppelganger. Well, we do have to talk about the Flyers. Carter Hart gets hurt versus the
Wait,
Sabres.
were you going to add two more?
Oh yeah, to the conversation of franchises that are a mess. Cleveland Browns, always and forever, and that's ownership, that's team performance, that's like shady decisions. It's fans at points. Like,
It's being in the city of Cleveland, which
you know what? I've never been to Cleveland, so I don't know if I can knock it.
I hate Cleveland just because it's like Buffalo, but more popular, but worse.
Did you,
more
Sean?
popular
you,
in what way?
They've got more pro sports teams.
I was gonna
guess.
say, I was like, I don't think Cleveland's very popular.
They're a three sport city, right? So one more than Buffalo.
4 if you include Barons, right? You got the Cleveland Browns, you got the Cleveland Cavaliers, you got the Cleveland Guardians. People forget, and the Cleveland Barons still there?
No,
I know
idea.
that's where the River Monsters are, right?
Oh,
The AHL team. I know that.
So they were there was an AHL team that was the Sharks affiliate called the Cleveland Barons, but AHL teams, ECHL teams, they change, they move all over the place. So Browns I would put on that list, and sneaky right now. I know that Sean is having a rough time because his Arizona Diamondbacks just lost the World Series to the Rangers. Sean's baseball team, the Boston Red Sox, kind of belong on that list right
come
now.
on.
This is like a recency bias thing. Like,
I can't even really
currently,
disagree.
Come on, no. As much as I hate Red Sox ownership,
It's not like
putting
a
them in a
decades-long
discussion
thing.
of worst run teams.
Trading Mookie Betts is one of the worst things I've ever seen happen in pro sports.
So there's a difference between bad management decisions and being a poorly run organization. The Red Sox fucking print money, and they've greatly improved Fenway Park in terms of just from an operation standpoint. Yeah, I love making fun of the Red Sox for operating like a small business baseball team, but they are a thriving business.
They also have as many World Series as any other team in the last decade.
They won a World Series 4 years ago.
I said it's a
5 years
recency
ago.
bias, but they changed the direction of their team every 3 years or every 2 years, and somebody loses their job as a result of it. Pete, they offered a front office member an interview for their general manager job, and she turned it down.
Yeah.
That's not a reflection on her. That's a reflection on them, because that is the right move for her to be like, no.
I mean, there are warts with the way that they are being run, because it should be one of the most attractive jobs. So that's kind of like, there's two hands here. It should be one of the most attractive jobs, so they can't be considered one of the worst run organizations in sports. If that, in theory, is one of the most coveted jobs in the sport. But on the other hand, the ownership is meddling in affairs too much that nobody wants that job. So they are being poorly run at the moment, but they don't make that list.
As much as I love the idea of starting a hockey show and only talking baseball, which I have struggled to get back into for years, we should discuss the Flyers and Carter Hart. We've teased that a couple of times. He leaves the Sabres game with a mid-body injury, which sucks, and we'll see what this ends up being, if it's a little thing, if it's a long thing.
I saw in Elliot Friedman's 32 Thoughts post last night said expect him to be out, quote unquote, for a bit.
So that sucks, because he's off to the best start he's had post the Flyers ruining him. He had the 2 years where he had, I'd say, more than cups of coffee and showing that he was one of like the good young players in the game. They decide to fully make him the guy, give him way too much responsibility, a bad team around him, kind of run him into the ground. He seems like a bit of a lost cause, damaged goods, whatever. Looks good this year.
Yeah.
And then...
Yeah, I don't think that he was ever a lost cause or damaged goods. It was just like a failure of protection.
A better way to, let me rephrase that. They were ruining him.
Yeah, they certainly weren't helping him.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is a bummer. Like he was getting on track, and like I don't want to see Carter Hart fail. You know, he's like a really strong talent, and you know, you hate to see kind of a guy get put in a position where everybody's like, bust, this guy stinks, where's your savior now? But like they really haven't done him many favors, and just like a really unfortunate injury, whatever it is, whatever happened last night, it was just like awkward, and then to see him struggling to get up was tough to watch.
All right, can we talk about the injury though?
Mm-hmm.
They said it's a mid-body injury, and mid-body jokes aside, that's not even what I want to hit. I just want to hit the whole conversation. Do you know why, and this can be a reminder or it can be an education, do you know why NHL teams are allowed to term things upper body injury, lower body injury?
So that players can't target specific areas?
Because when the player returns to the lineup, they don't want those specific areas targeted. Do you know which position Carter Hart plays?
Goaltender. Yes.
You hit the goalie unless you're Milan Lucic, you go to fucking jail.
That's right.
No one's going to target
really
his fucking penis over, like, we know. They said specifically what.
All right, fellas, get out there and suck that dick.
To which you say, all right, well, they can shoot the puck at him. You shoot the puck at the fucking goalie, you get benched.
You're not trying to hit the goalie.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's a little disingenuous though, because like players will take extra shots at a goalie.
Right. You can try to pepper a spot, but by and large, I mean, like if you shoot, obviously, like if you shoot off the goalie's mask and it doesn't look like an accident, then maybe there can be some trubs there. But just like, I'm going to aim for the middle of his body. Sweet. You know what the middle of the goalie's body is? That's where they make all their fucking saves. People, when your player chunks it, you say, he shot it right into the crest or right into his chest. That's the middle of the fucking body. Or I guess like it starts to get upper at some point.
Yeah,
but we're not doctors.
I'm not talking about shooting at the goalie. I'm talking about like taking little extra liberties after a play, after a whistle, like
never happened
in the crease.
We made it up. It's fictional. Writers came up with it.
Yeah, and I guess like even
just
saying like mid body, you're giving a target area. Like you just poke in there. But yeah, I mean, you make a good point that like why not just say what it is?
We're making fucking horrible time because we dicked around with the Senators so much, but honestly, had to be done. Bummer for the Capitals. Nicklas Backstrom taking time away from the team and the game as he deals with injuries. This was already going to be a pretty bad season for the Capitals, who last year had we're hurt, so this can kind of be a one-off freak season. We're going to trade our guys with expiring deals and come back next year. We all kind of knew they weren't going to come back this year, and now does it already look like sort of a lost season for them?
Yeah, I mean, they were old. They looked old last year, and they didn't look all that good. And I think some of this was predictable, and they're in a really weird spot right now because they want to at least stay relevant and keep themselves semi above water, just for the purpose of Alex Ovechkin's goal chase. And like that's the biggest thing going on with that team right now. And it may legitimately be the worst thing for them, because otherwise, if it weren't for Ovechkin chasing Gretzky, I think you could look at this team and make an easy decision to be like, we have to move on, or like we have to rebuild.
I don't know though that I do agree with that, but Ovechkin is good at scoring. And they don't have a lot of this is definitely what we do well sort of things on their roster. So they have to make that their identity. Like even if there weren't the nostalgic and like vibes aspect of like we're the Capitals, we have to be Alexander Ovechkin scoring 1 million goals. Even if his name was Pete Blackburn instead of Alexander Ovechkin, I think they'd still be like, if we want to sell tickets and we want to get national games, we kind of have to lean into we've got this guy who scores a bunch of goals.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. And like, they're still going to sell tickets. Like, people are going to be involved and intrigued.
Good fan base.
And like for Capitals fans, like Ovechkin passing Gretzky is going to be like, that's like the coolest thing about being a Capitals fan, that like I got to see this, got to watch like the best goal scorer. So like, I'm not saying like you have to trade Ovechkin and just move on, because like you can't allow him to pass Gretzky in a different uniform. Would be the worst thing for Capitals fans to stomach. But like, it's a tough spot to be in where, you know, things are not going in a good direction competitively and contender wise. They're probably going to be middle of the pack or worse until Ovechkin, or at least like for the next like year or so.
If they hadn't won a cup, do you think that they would have like Ray Borked him? Borked sounds very sexual as a
right. I think it really depends on verb on what Ovechkin wanted, right? Like Ray Bork was like, I want to win a cup. I'm not going to do it here. Please trade me.
Were like, you already played for a cup. And he's like, no, I want to like win one.
Yeah, right.
They're like, oh, you can't do that.
It's a tough. I mean, it's tough from like the Backstrom perspective, because great career. I really don't see him coming back from this. Like, only one player has ever returned from like that hip resurfacing surgery, and it was Ed Jovanovski, and he only played like 30-something games. Backstrom clearly not right to start this year, so he steps away, and I mean, like, I would be surprised if he comes back. Just like a really tough way, and especially like if you're talking about Ovechkin passing Gretzky, ideally, you'd like to see it on a feed from Nicklas Backstrom. It would just be like kind of perfect. So
only way to do it.
Kind of a bummer that that's not going to happen.
Real quick, both of you fellas, I think I know what your answer will be. Do you want Ovechkin to be the all-time leading goal scorer? Sean?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
100%.
He's the best goal scorer ever. And I know that's tough to stomach for surgery. And like, if you still want to say that Gretzky is the greatest of all time, you can. Connor McDavid is the greatest of all time, though. But from a goal scoring standpoint,
from a pure scoring perspective, Alexander Ovechkin did it in an era where it's way harder to score. He's done it like consistently, like nobody has ever done it in this era. It's outrageous, and he plays a hard game. Like, that's the craziest part about it, is that he's not protected.
He's the best to do that thing. There's only there's a few, but there's only so many players who have certain areas of the ice associated with them. Like Wayne Gretzky behind the net, Ovechkin at that dot. I'll tell you what, though. We're talking about hips and we're talking about mid-bodies. I got a hip new drink that's got my mid-body feeling amazing. The only thing I care about on this show is the transition into Ollie Pop reads. It's a prebiotic soda.
That's right. It's not a probiotic.
It's not a probiotic soda, okay, everybody?
But they are pros at making sodas.
They are, and honestly, sometimes they're so pro that they got me feeling bionic. I'm like, is this even my body with how good this prebiotic soda's got me feeling? It's good for digestive health, which is very important. If you got any sort of digestive issues, you're probably an American person, because 2 out of 3 Americans say they suffer from digestive issues. 95% of Americans don't get the daily recommended amount of fiber. Ollie Pop got you covered in both of those areas. It's got 5 grams of sugar, less than, I should even say, in each can. You get great flavors. I told you my favorite is that classic cola, but you could also get grape soda. You can get root beer.
Somebody in the chat yesterday said that root beer slaps.
That root beer does slap, and it doesn't taste like something that's trying to be something. You know, because like sometimes you get some, and if these places become sponsors, I'll speak very highly of them. But you know, sometimes like you get like a certain ice cream that is maybe like lower in sugar and it does this and it tastes like ice cream. And you're like, it tastes like it's trying to be ice cream. This tastes like its own drink. It truly does. It's amazing. I go through them. I pick them up at Sweet Green sometimes when I go and grab my salad. You're probably not supposed to mention other brands when you're doing ad reads, but I love Olipop, and I know you will too. They're so confident you'll love their products that they offer 100% money-back guarantee for orders placed through their website. So use Chaos for 20% off your next Olipop order on drinkolipop.com. Olipop can also be found in over 22,000 stores across the country, including Walmart, Target, and Whole Foods. Pretty good?
Pretty good.
Oh
except you went with you gave a little tease, 25% off, and then cut it down to 20.
I negotiated against the listener and won.
You got him real excited.
It's 20%
off is a good deal. You made it seem like not such a good deal.
It's a good deal, Jeff. Kevin Costner, draft day. We're going to do some Kevin Costner material at some point on this podcast. And if you think I'm kidding, I'm not. Last news items that we should quickly hit. I love that we're making shit time. It just means that we've got so much to talk about. But last news items that we should quickly hit. Per Elliot Friedman, Noah Hannafin going to hit pause on negotiations with the Flames while he figures out if this is totally where he wants to be. He's UFA at the end of the year.
And like not for nothing, based off the numbers that were thrown out there in Friedman's report, he was targeting more money than Devin Taves' recent extension.
Devin Taves' extension is awesome, though.
Yeah, but like Devin Taves is like, awesome.
A little more consistently what he is.
Use that as like the framework is like, you want more money than Devin Taves? Like if you're the Flames, but like not for nothing, if that's the case, the Flames might be they might be benefiting from him hitting pause here. Because like I don't think you want to lock in Noah Hannafin for more money than Devin Taves.
Yeah, he'd be on his third team. He and Dougie Hamilton kind of careers intertwined there.
That's
they were
true.
Traded for each other and ended up playing and will end up playing on more teams than I think anybody would have expected. Both very good players. We aim, by the way. Did we talk about this on the first episode?
What?
We got to get Dougie on the pod.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's that's like my golden goose.
That's the golden goose. It's the white whale.
White whale. Yeah.
I hit up his agent and was like, "Hey, you represent a lot of great players, and you're a great guy. We'd love to have some of your players.
I'd like to change people's minds on certain people."
Dougie. Oh my God, nothing would make me happier. Me and Sarah Siv are not the only two people, but like people who covered Dougie Hamilton and we're like, that guy's so fucking nice and cool. But I think that people want to ascribe things to.
It didn't help that he blocked every single person on Twitter.
Didn't block me.
Good
he
for
blocked
you.
when he was with the Bruins. This isn't going to help him come on the podcast. Like everybody thinks that he's this just because he did all these things. No, I fucking love Dougie Hamilton. Really, really good guy. And I love Kevin Weeks because he gave us something that we wanted bad. One of his shit videos, and I say this lovingly because I think that that's part of his brand.
My favorite one was that he did one recently. I want to say that it was on a plane, and he did it with the shitty framing, which is now like a branding part of his videos. But he did it on the plane, and you can't hear it because I don't know if you know this. Planes are extremely loud.
Yeah, your ears probably adjust to all of it, right?
Yeah, I think so. But like on the video, it's just the noise of a plane, and it's just the top of his forehead, and he's like, "Breaking news." We can't hear any of this.
So his latest breaking news, which he says like, hey, not breaking news. Let's not treat this as breaking news. So Sean, if you do have a breaking news banner, just toss it up there. Sound any alarms. Just kidding. I'm pretty sure the only audio we have for the show today is
I didn't do shit.
I didn't do
fucking shit. I didn't rig shit. I didn't fucking do this. I'm not worried about it.
Well, wait, Sean. When we say that Kevin Weeks is reporting that the World Cup of Hockey is coming back,
I didn't do fucking shit. I didn't rig shit.
Because he does say he's like, don't take this as like breaking news, but there is discussion that there could be a 2025 World Cup of Hockey, and that it would happen between the Super Bowl and the beginning of March Madness. At this point, he says, it would probably only involve NHL players, and there would not be like gimmick teams.
Did he say that? I know that like it had been reported.
He didn't
like
say in that
months
video,
ago.
actually.
He didn't say that in the video. It been reported months ago that like the NHL wants to do another World Cup of Hockey, but it would be they would lose Team North America, like probably Team Europe, maybe, I don't know. But like if there is another World Cup of Hockey, it's been long expected that like Team North America would not be involved again.
Okay, so because we explained the Senators thing, we'll explain if anybody didn't catch the 2016 World Cup of Hockey. They did a World Cup of Hockey in 2016, yeah? You got right?
Sure.
It was sometime around there. It was before now. We were wearing different clothes at the time.
It's hard to know. Hard to know for sure.
You can never know. By the way, our season preview thing hit so well, but people got mad at me because they said I cursed the Bruins with a Charlie McAvoy suspension by predicting it.
Yeah, that's true.
Accidentally. But
manifested.
At some point, they had a World Cup of Hockey, and it was national teams, but then there were also these like kind of weird regional teams where they did a Team Europe that was basically any European player.
Essentially rest of Europe.
That wasn't from Sweden, Czech Republic, or Finland, or Russia is European and Asian, correct? Sean says yes.
Yes. Huge geography.
Really?
Right?
Okay.
Yeah, it's like
I'm glad we have a smart person on this
both
podcast.
continents. Yeah.
Hell yeah. I feel like I deserve a little credit for
I mean, you
were right.
half thinking that right? Like
well,
Russia
I'm glad
Asia?
that I'm the dumbest person on this podcast, I should say.
We both said Sean.
Right. Sean, right there, Team North America in the locker.
I thought you were saying that you're bad at geography and saying like Sean is over there,
That's
which
right.
I thought was going to be a hilarious joke on your part. But yeah, they had these like weird kind of wonky teams, and people fucking loved them. Everybody loved Team North America. Adidas sent both Pete and I care packages. They sent me a bunch of USA stuff, which was very nice. And they sent Pete a Team North America package, which was so much cooler. And he's got that jersey that he loves.
Yeah. I mean, everybody loved that team. It was the darling of the tournament. It was
McDavid, Matthews.
Under 23 or 23 and under?
It was an under 23 team that had McDavid, McKinnon, Gaudreau, Matthews, Parayko, Gostisbehere. Like, we still love Shane Gostisbehere. But when Shane Gostisbehere first came on the scene, people fucking loved that guy. There was no talk of like, I mean, he was bad contract. He was just like
Shane Gostisbehere was a college legend too.
Yes.
So like, and I believe he won a national title.
Did he? But didn't he play for
Union?
Yeah, he played for Union.
Yeah.
Did Union win a national title?
If they didn't, they had like a incredible run in the Frozen Four.
Okay.
So also
this is a baseball and college hockey
can't forget
podcast.
Ryan Murray. Ryan Murray, TNA legend.
Matt Murray also on that team.
That's true.
So anyway, there was also Team Europe. That was the team that I fucking loved because it had Chara. It had
most importantly Leon Draisaitl.
That was like Leon Draisaitl's like fucking big step out into the world.
I remember.
And I was a big Draisaitl guy.
I remember
always.
that. I remember being like, why do you love this guy so much? And here we are.
I believe I was tweeting at Adidas being like, hey,
where that
I know you're
Draisaitl jersey
sending
at?
I was like, I know you're sending care packages because you already sent me one. Send me a Team Europe one. Anyway, there might not be those types of teams in this 2025 one if it happens. So we made our own gimmick teams that we hoped they would have. Let's start with mine. I'm calling it Team Nice Adults or Team NA, and that's North American players ages like 27 to 31-ish. And that team will have McDavid, McKinnon, Gaudreau, Austin Matthews, Colton Parayko, the Nuge, Shane Gostisbehere, Matt Murray.
I would love if they stuck Matt Murray in goal still.
Because that team would be qualified to have Connor Hellebuyck. Do you remember at the time they had Hellebuyck, but they were only playing Matt Murray and who is the
Carter Hart?
What?
Carter Hart?
No.
I don't know. Who
Carter
else
Hart wasn't alive back then, buddy. It was John Gibson.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
They were playing both those guys, and we were like, Hellebuyck, Hellebuyck. I think they only
Hellebuyck
played
was
4
nasty.
games. I think the team kind of like wasn't amazing. They were just cool.
They won 2 games, right? I think they went 2-2.
Yeah,
and they didn't make the like elimination round. But I love this idea. Keep the same jerseys.
Yeah.
And
we could
we're
make
good.
a mock-up of the jerseys.
I would love if they did that, because like the whole thing has been like, allow Connor McDavid and Austin Matthews to finally play for Team US, because they haven't worn like the USA and Canada jerseys in their entire career.
Yeah,
like since World Juniors. So this would be an awesome opportunity to prevent them from doing that again.
Sean and I had this conversation off the air yesterday. People are going to be like, don't teams might be afraid of doing it in season because this was a preseason thing that they did back in whatever year that they did it. And like, fuck that. If guys are on bad teams, I bet players would be so excited to potentially win something.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you talk about, I don't know, who do we want to use as an example there? Like,
we want all these guys on the podcast.
Not to dump on the Coyotes, but
suck.
like a Clayton Keller. Like, they might make the playoffs this year anyway because they're nasty.
This one with the Coyotes.
I'm just like citing from recent examples.
Yeah.
Like somebody who's just dying to make the playoffs is probably like Clayton Keller's probably dying to make the playoffs and be on a good team.
All right, Pete, what's your team?
My team, unsurprisingly, is Team Short Kings.
Woo!
And you could have guys like Alex DeBrincat, Cole Caulfield, one half of Tage Thompson, which would be 3'3". It would qualify for the. By the way, I'm classifying a Short King as an 5'8" and under.
Yeah.
So you 5'8". Or would it you 5'9"?
It would be your 5'8".
Yeah, that's right.
You don't say you.
I'm saying
that's how you would phrase that.
Logan Stakehoven, Matt Zuccarello. You have Alexander Ovechkin's kid, Baby Ovechkin.
Okay, so I was confused by Baby Ovechkin because we're working on a pre-produced thing called Baby Ovechkin that does not involve Alexander Ovechkin's kid. I saw that and I thought you were making a reference to something
that doesn't actually exist yet.
Only I know.
Yes, no. I was talking about.
I would have loved.
Ovechkin's kid. He's got a sick shot. We know that he's going to be nasty. Cam Atkinson, who I was surprised. I knew that Cam Atkinson was short.
Didn't know he was.
Surprised that he was qualifying for this. And then I would also throw in Marty St. Louis.
That's the one that made me laugh.
Marty St. Louis, still in the NHL. So technically qualifies for this team. Although famously, Baby Ovechkin is not in
Although
the
he's
NHL.
been spending a lot of time on the bench.
That's true. He's around the league a lot. So, and then my goalie would be Jordan Binnington because he's a literal baby.
Yes.
So doesn't qualify from the height standpoint, but from like the mental capacity, he's got a short fuse.
Yes.
So Short King by proxy.
Awesome. When we have him on the podcast, which we do want,
and has been discussed.
You like from us or from
like I've talked to people who have been like, I think he'd do it. And I think that it would be he's like what's the opposite of a white whale?
The opposite of a white whale. Well, it depends.
Like a black sheep?
Maybe?
Like he would be the guy that I don't want as a guest, but I do want as a guest just from like a content perspective.
No, I mean, everybody that we've had so far has been kind of.
But basically what I'm saying is that I don't like Jordan Binnington.
Yeah, I just feel like every time with Jordan Binnington, it's, this fucking guy clip.
Yeah, right.
There's a lot of this
I'm
fucking
sick
guy
of that
clips
guy.
of
And like
Binnington.
Blues fans will be like, still crying about losing in the finals.
To which your answer
Correct.
is
yes. He will haunt me for the rest of my life. But like there are players from that Blues team, like Ryan O'Reilly won the Conn Smythe, and I'm not like, fuck that guy forever. I love Ryan O'Reilly.
Colton Parayko, I want him on my team.
I respect Ryan O'Reilly. I do not respect Jordan Binnington.
Man, and here's what history...
But I will put him on my team because he's a big baby.
History will forget. Jordan Binnington in Game 7 against the Bruins fucking sucked in the first period. First 10 minutes of the game.
Yeah, juicy rebound after juicy rebound after juicy rebound.
And they just didn't... there was one... Now I'm getting too in the weeds, but there was one bounce that was so lucky it kind of squirted out into the corner.
You are right.
He didn't kick.
You are right in the sense that during that first period, I had the thought if they don't score right now, they are not going to win this game.
Yeah.
Because if you're not scoring when this guy is giving you this shit, he's gonna get better.
Yeah. Sean, your team idea is my favorite. What is it?
It is Team Old Heads. It's players that have retired
Yes.
specifically in the last 2 years, and of which includes the shortest king of short kings, Nathan Gerby.
Nathan Gerby.
The shortest
Do you think
skater in
if
NHL
they
history.
iced these teams, Nathan Gerby would look at the short king squad and be like, "Why the fuck aren't I over there?"
Yeah. Well, that would be like a Team North America
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Canada sort of
True,
thing. Where
yes.
McDavid could have fucking been on Team Canada.
Yeah. Nathan Gerby, Andre Sekera. Defensively, this team kind of goes crazy. Keith Yandel, Zdeno Chara, PK Subban, and then Patrice Bergeron, David Krejci, and I had to throw Paul Stastny in there just because he's a recently retired player.
Mm-hmm.
And then Corey Schneider, I guess, as my goaltender.
Yo.
Not a whole lot of choices. Not goaltending of guys that are retired.
Because Hank falls outside of
Yeah,
it by
right.
a year, right?
Yeah, just outside of a year. I could have expanded it a little bit, but
No, rules are rules.
yeah.
That's right.
But yeah, goaltending, not great on this. Not a whole lot of options, but I guess I rock.
Oh, what about Tuukka Rask as your goalie?
Oh, yeah, I guess he wasn't on the list of players. I didn't think of that.
Wow.
He wasn't on the list that I was looking at of guys that have retired in the last few years. But yes,
He doesn't have a great reputation with
when the games matter,
with world competition stuff. Because he also with Team Finland kind of chunked it a little bit.
but this team, I feel like you get guys out there who would just be like, we're just here to fuck shit up. We got nothing going on.
I feel like that's what Chara was doing anyway.
They'd be the most dangerous team because they don't have to play the rest of the NHL season because they're retired. They'd be like, we leave it all out on the ice.
Yeah,
That's right. And they'd be like, other than PK Subban would be taking breaks to talk about the Hughes brothers, I think. Other than that team is going to cook.
And also, we would get one of the greatest meme pictures in the history of the NHL, which is Zdeno Chara next to Gerby.
Yes.
Which I just love that. So
Somebody did say that this show has Nathan for you vibes, and I said it's Nathan Gerby for you, which does fit because Pete's got a little Nathan Gerby.
I
sure do.
Whenever I say Nathan
situation.
Gerby, I have to say Buffalo Sabres legend.
It's
Nathan
true.
Gerby.
Not around here. You know where he went to college?
No.
Boston College.
Oh, okay. It wasn't BU.
I think. Unless, I could be wrong. Who fucking cares? Shout out Nathan Gerby, though. We said there would be more Brad Marchand stuff yesterday. We had him on, and in case you didn't hear that, here's a quick little clip.
I will retire.
And as a thank you for Brad coming on the show, we commissioned our friend Sir Collect-A-Lot, who makes all sorts of bonkers bootleg toys, to make a toy for Brad Marchand. And if you know anything about Brad Marchand, he loves getting suspended. I kid! He loves the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yep.
He's a big, I believe, Raphael guy.
Who cares?
He does.
Okay,
He
I don't know enough about them individually. I just know them as a collective.
Oh, you're saying who cares about the turtles, not who cares about his affinity.
Correct. Yeah.
So anyway, we had Sir Collect-A-Lot make Brad Marchand as a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. We saw Brad recently, gave him the toy. What gets cut off at the beginning of this is us approaching him with a box and Brad saying to me that he hopes the gift is not inappropriate. Pete then has a banger of a line.
It wouldn't be the boxes.
As a
The
gift
first
for
gift.
you
First
being
guest.
our first guest, we commissioned bootleg toy maker, Sir Collect-A-Lot, collaborator with such people as Tyler the Creator, big rappers, to make you your own Brad Marchand action figure.
That is unbelievable.
How fucking awesome is that?
Is that
That is insane, dude.
It's a one of one, by the
that
way.
is.
So don't
Not in mass
It's not
production
gonna be a
yet.
hit? No,
Not yet.
If it ends up
That
online,
is
we'll know.
unbelievable. I love because it kind of looked like a rat too.
We didn't tell him
Yeah,
to do that. Don't worry.
He just knew.
That's unbelievable.
Terrific.
That is
Enjoy. Put it in a nice place.
Oh, don't worry, that's going on the shelf.
Fuck yeah, dude.
Thanks, boys. Appreciate that.
Check out Sir Collect-A-Lot on Instagram and wherever you check out things. He makes wild stuff. Marchand sincerely did fucking love that.
Yeah.
He was so happy.
My two favorite things about that clip are how happy he was that he received that gift, and two, like the stark difference between the energy on the interview was great, but it was a little bit more like, what is this?
Yeah.
And then when he knew what it was and saw us again like a week later, he was like, you motherfuckers, and knew exactly what to expect and was just kind of like very, very chummy.
He helped us so much by doing that. And as we say in the interview, like I covered him back in the day when he was young, when I was young or whatever. So I was probably like nervous in some of those early years as a reporter, but he was always really just like off the outside of interviews and everything. He was a little weird. I was a little weird or whatever. So I am grateful that he didn't know what this was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, even though Pete has probably tweeted fucking God knows what about me. Although you're a Bruins fan.
I mean, I love Marchand, but he does dumb shit. And when he does dumb shit, I'll say he just did some dumb shit.
It's all to say, like, with him, like, knowing me to be kind of a weirdo and you being an online wild card and him just being named captain of the Bruins, it would have been very easy for him to say, like, you know what, the heat's a little too hot on you guys, or this whole thing, so I'm going to sit it out. But him doing it led to us being able to book other dope shit, both with the Bruins, some of his teammates, and with other star players across the NHL. So, like,
that's a little tease.
Immensely grateful to Brad Marchand. He's an awesome dude.
100%. Everything you said is correct. Like, banger guests probably wouldn't have been possible if we didn't get to say, like, hey, we did this with Brad Marchand. Want to see how it came out. And so that opened the door. But also, like, going back to what I said earlier, like, I would love to change people's opinions of certain players. And I saw the reaction to our first episode. A lot of it was like, fuck you guys for making me like Brad Marchand.
Yeah.
So love that.
There was like a lot of, what's the story here? Why did that happen? How did that happen? Like, are you guys family friends or something? Because, like, why was he so comfortable with it? And it was like, he's a cool dude. Once he got past the first joke that we made is kind of a risk, because if he wasn't into it and we made that joke, he could have really been like, okay, I'm out.
Yeah, but then we would have got Brad Marchand walking out after the first question, and it would have been an awesome start to the podcast.
Well, we've got some insane guests coming up next week, and one of them we showed the clip of the Marchand interview to before the interview, and he said, yes, do shit like this. Do this with, like, every player. So then we did some of that shit with him, and after, like, 3 minutes, he was like, I'm going to fucking leave if you guys don't stop dicking around. So we've got very
excited for next week's guests. So if you have not subscribed on YouTube or followed us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all those places that you get podcasts, do that now, or do it in like 2 minutes after this episode is over, and we will see you next week for several banger guests.
We all silly like the mayor.